listen, friendly wager. I'll bet you a nice bottle of wine that I don't think the 49ers will draft a quarterback in the first 3 rounds of the draft. And if they do, now that I know your email, I will ask to send
All
you a
right,
nice
man. For the
bottle of
sake of it,
wine.
let's do it. But everyone else watching, I'm not just going to be wagering bottles of wine with anyone. I go way back with
Yeah.
this one here. So we're going to, yeah, okay, that's fair. They better
Okay.
take a quarterback on day 2. My God, if they don't do
And
that.
I will tell you why is
Tell me.
that I go back to his Kyle's dad, Mike, right? I go back to what he did and what made him successful. And he had Steve Young when he was an offensive coordinator, and
Yeah.
he won a lot of games with Steve Young. And I think Steve Young, in the back of their minds, is that gold standard.
Or
Hey,
John
we
Elway.
need or
Or
John
John
Elway,
Elway,
right?
yeah.
But he had Steve Young before, right?
Right.
And then he went to John Elway, and then he
Right.
went to another. I think he had Brian Greasy, I want to
He
say,
had
his
Greasy,
dad,
he
and
had
then he had
Plummer, and then he
Plummer.
had Cutler. And Cutler
Cutler,
always had supreme physical gifts. He couldn't put it
correct.
together, but he had the footwork, the release, the arm strength, all of it.
The one time they were tasked to develop a quarterback was RG3, and look how that turned out. It did not turn out very well for Kyle
No,
and his dad. And I think a big, maybe I'm wrong, but from an outsider's point of view, I don't see that much developing quarterbacks, both
I agree.
Kyle and the 49ers. I think
I
they
agree.
develop offensive linemen better than anybody else in the NFL, and that blocking scheme is pretty unique. And I think they develop running backs, but outside
They
of those
definitely develop
two,
running backs. They develop
outs,
linebackers. Tight ends,
I,
they develop
tight
the
ends.
hell out of tight ends.
So in my mind, I think, and their draft probably shows this a little bit, is that they're probably going to draft what they know they can develop, and
Right.
they're probably going to sign in free agency cheap deals for
Yeah,
guys that
they'll
are
sign
already
Gardner
developed.
Minshew. They'll sign Andy Dalton, have him back up. They'll sign the backup. And he'll
Correct.
be like a vet backup for Jimmy G. And the third string guy will be either Nick Mullins or Josh Rosen. End of story.
I also
God,
see
that's
them.
so bleak.
I also see them drafting not a quarterback and then extending Jimmy, creating the space, and then saying, well, we didn't draft a quarterback because we were going to extend Jimmy this whole entire time. We've got the cap space. We'll extend Fred. We'll pick up a couple of June 1st cuts that are going to happen now. We're in great shape. This was our plan all along. We just kept everything close to the vest. And
Yeah, we
that's,
just ran it
I,
back.
we again,
We just
it
ran it
goes
back.
back to, it goes back to them being very conservative and knowing what they have. And you only do that when you can't develop something. When you know that this is what I have, this is what
And
I'm
let's
going
talk
to
about
do.
why do the Shanahans not develop quarterbacks? What is it about Kyle in particular that's not ideal for a young
I
quarterback?
go I go back to RG3. RG3's best year was his rookie year before he got hurt. And look at Jimmy G. Some could say his best games were before he got hurt. And I
Yep.
think Kyle is a very powerful figure, just like his father was. And he
Yes.
basically tells the quarterbacks, hey, you're young, you want to play in the league, do what I'm telling you, stop
Yes.
this ad lib stuff. But
Yes.
a lot of those quarterbacks, and you see the same thing happening in Seattle.
Yes.
You can only ad lib for so long before you start losing games, right? Or you
Mhm.
get exposed. You lose your quickness, you get hit a lot. Same thing's going to happen in Arizona. The Super Bowl, again, was won by some guy who you and me could outrun in a 40-yard dash. But what does he do? He executes the play better than anybody else, right? So they're
Well,
going to
yeah.
fall back on
Right.
that.
I mean, like, I look at what he was in Washington with Kirk Cousins. When Kirk Cousins got in the game, when Kyle Shanahan was there, Kirk Cousins didn't do much. Kirk Cousins had good years under McVay, and then
Correct.
McVay went to LA and got a 23-year-old Jared Goff and made
Who
him
was going to be
functional.
cut? Correct.
Going to be
Yes.
cut, and I just don't think that Kyle Shanahan can do the same thing. I think McVay, I don't know what it is, but I think Kyle's just negative. I've talked about it before. He's very demanding, and he's
Yes.
very blunt. And I think to develop a 22-year-old quarterback, like you don't want to kill his confidence. The other teams are going to kill his confidence. You don't need to help.
Correct.
You need to build it up and be like, I know you struggled this week. You're young, man. You're great. You're great. And he's just
Correct.
not that kind of guy. He'll be like, yeah, man, you missed that. You missed that. You missed that. You missed that.
he may be the best play caller in the division, but I honestly do believe that McVay may be the best coach because I think coaching is more than play calling. He's
no
the best
question it's
offensive
more than
coordinator.
play calling.
He's the best question, but he took Goff, who basically was going to get cut and couldn't play under Fisher, and made him almost a Pro Bowler and got to the
Yeah.
Super Bowl with him. Now
Yeah.
Kyle can say he did the same thing with Jimmy, and I get that piece of it.
Jimmy was like
but
28, 27, and
This
he
kid's
spent
still
3 years in New England under Tom Brady, getting developed carefully. It's
Right.
not like he was. It was like Jared Goff was different. Jared Goff played as a rookie and was on the verge of being a bust, and McVay saved his career for like 3 years.
correct. And I also think Kyle gets way too much credit for Nick Mullins. I think Nick Mullins is a very
Developed
intelligent
himself.
person. He developed himself. The way he carries himself like he's a 35-year-old veteran. And
That's
he
why I
looks
love
like
Nick Mullins. That's
he
why
looks
I love
like correct.
I
He
love
looks
that
like
kid.
he gets ID'd
Love
when
him.
he goes to the liquor
No
store.
doubt, dude. When you see him in the locker room, you're like, is he on the team?
Correct.
Is he on the team? Yeah.
He's not the ball boy, right?
He looks like the ball boy. He's gonna go by everyone's locker and like pick up their trash from the ground. Like, hey, you still using this? Can I get that? Like, nah, man, that's the quarterback of the team.
He was,
yeah.
and Nick Mullins was never supposed to get developed. It was supposed to be Beathard, and look how he turned out. Beathard.
There's
was
no
always supposed to
development.
be-
Again, I
there
feel
is
like
no
what Kyle does is he takes a quarterback like Matt Ryan, who's been developed, who's been to
Yep.
Pro Bowls, and basically the organization hasn't put a support system around him. There's no run game. It's all him. And Kyle's like, all right, well, let me bring in my zone stretch run game. Let me bring in my play action game, and I'll give you better throws, but I'll be very demanding. There's a lot for you to learn, and you may not like me at the end of year 2. And I think that's he can do that. I think his dad did that for Steve Young and John Elway, who were developed.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And so if they could get a guy like that, I mean, it's not like they developed Jay Cutler particularly well, Mike.
Nope.
If they could get a guy like that, if they could get Kirk Cousins, if they could get Matt Ryan, it could work. But bringing in Justin Fields,
No, that's not their MO. That's not going to happen. Like I said, I'll send a bottle of wine, but I'm telling you, the first 3 picks will not be a quarterback. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah. I like your conviction. You're probably right. I'll send you a real nice bottle of wine if you're right, but you owe me if I'm right.
You got it.
All right, man. Good. Have fun. I hope your friend moves, buddy. Good luck.
Thanks.
Lift with your legs, not your back. Lift with your legs.
Correct.
All right, man. Later.